Hey everybody, on this episode of iTalk Movies, we'll be talking with writer-director Scot Armstrong about his new film, Search Party. Let's do it.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's iTalk Movies.
You have the familiar strings of Garfunkel and Oates playing us in here. There. All right, welcome everybody to iTalk Movies here on Popcorn Talk. We'll be talking with writer-director Scot Armstrong about his latest film, Search Party. So I'm your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. Now, as I said, my guest today, Scot Armstrong, he is responsible for some of the biggest laughs you've ever had in the theater. I mean, look at this resume. He's got Road Trip, Old School, Semi-Pro, Starsky and Hutch, Hangover Part 2. His latest film is Search Party, and it comes with a murderous row of comedic talent. Adam Pally, Thomas Middleditch, TJ Miller, and plus another cast of just fine comedic talent. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our guest, Scot Armstrong.
Hi there.
Look at that.
No one's clapping.
No one's clapping. It's very silent.
Yeah, we're in an empty
room. There we go.
There we go.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I must say, as a writer, I'm sure you used to have all your lines quoted to you constantly.
That's like the biggest compliment, you know.
And I can't imagine.
I'm not really like I'm not an actor. Like people don't recognize my face, so I don't really get a lot of like, oh, I know what you said. You know what I mean? But like someone like Will Ferrell or somebody would get. My favorite thing was he told me he was running in a marathon one time, and everyone, the whole marathon was just yelling like, "You're my boy, Blue," or whatever, stuff like that.
Well, as my name being Frank, anytime I'm at work and I have to wear a name tag or something, and they see my name is Frank,
really?
It's always Frank the Tank. I can't tell you how many times people have said that to me. To which I always respond, "We're going streaking." So
there you go.
Which they seem to enjoy. Everybody seems to say that laugh. So thank you so much. Everybody just will chime in, give me that own nickname. So thank you. There. So let's just talk a little bit about where you started or where you came from. So you're from Wheaton, Illinois.
Yeah, Wheaton, Illinois. It's a town outside of Chicago, suburb. John Belushi was from there, so I'm like not in the right. I'm not the funniest person from Wheaton for sure.
Got to live up to that legacy of John Belushi.
Yeah, grew up in Wheaton.
And so as you're starting about John Belushi, I mean, he studied there with Del Close. You also studied with Del Close as well over at Improv Olympic.
Yeah, I mean, I started out in advertising, and then I don't know, I just want to get paid to write and think of ideas, and that just seemed like the easiest way to make money. And then, but once I was downtown Chicago working, I started at night I would go in and take Improv Olympic classes, and I would take Second City classes and stuff like that. And
so, because I remember reading an article about you where you're saying like, yeah, you just love coming up with ideas. That's what you love doing more than anything. So what was that?
That's my favorite thing to do. Yeah, I do enjoy it. You know, I like sitting around with other people and like kicking things around and making each other laugh, and that's sort of what drew me into the whole comedy world.
So as a kid, you're growing up, and people think like, oh, I want to be a football player, baseball player, fireman, a police officer, something that seems like a tangible kind of thing. But for you to be saying like, I just want to sit around and come up with ideas, make people laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I started out doing like cartoons. Like I wanted to do like Far Side cartoons. I wanted to be like that guy. I always was trying to draw or think of something or write something, or like my folders were just covered with a million cartoons and crazy scenarios. Like in school, I would just draw all day in class, and but one day a guy came in and he worked in advertising in the creative department. And I just love when I found out there was like something called a creative department where people sit around and invent stuff. I was like, I'm for sure trying to do that, you know. So that's really what led me to go into advertising. It's just I wanted to be in the creative department, you know. And then once I was there, I was like, oh, maybe I could do more than that. Maybe I can, you know. But when I was in Improv Olympic, studying under Del Close, and that was like a whole mind-blowing thing when I first saw people doing sort of, you know, what they call long-form improvisation or whatever. That was like crazy to me. I didn't know that it really existed. I had gone to like Second City shows with my dad that were more like sketch stuff, but I had never seen like the long-form where people are basically the reason the Upright Citizens Brigade and Improv Olympic and those things are so incredible to do and to watch is because it's mostly like writers performing, or like you're watching like 6 people writing together at the same time. Everyone's inventing it together, and so that was like, oh, it's a writer's way to perform. And you know, because I never intended to really be on screen, or I didn't start taking classes because I wanted to be in commercials or on TV or in shows or be a stand-up comedian. I just wanted to create the stuff on stage with people. And when I was there, I just happened to be there at an incredible time when there was so many people that went on to do great things, like Adam McKay and like the guys who started Upright Citizens Brigade were all there. I was fans. I would watch them perform. Like, you know, Amy Poehler was there and Tina Fey and even guys like Jon Favreau who went on to like perform and act and direct everything. Just an amazing amount of people there. And at the time, it wasn't that big of a theater. A lot of people had great success, and I just learned a lot being there.
So it's certainly people that I've known that had a chance to be taught by Del. They all seem to have like a Del close story.
Yeah.
Do you have a Del close story?
I mean, I don't have one of the good stories. Like I've heard stories where people like, you know, he wrote a check for somebody and gave them their money back after they performed, like did a sketch that was like, just I don't want to talk to you anymore. Here's your money back. I don't want to teach you comedy. There's a lot, but the one thing he did to me. He just wanted things to be grounded and real at the beginning of a scene, and like if he tried to be funny, that was his main. Like if he tried too hard to like be funny, that made him probably the most annoyed. And I guess I did that in the beginning of something, and like he just left me on stage for like and never edited me for like 7 minutes. It was just like basically teaching me like if you don't really build anything real, you're just like stuck.
Yeah.
And so I was stuck for so long, just dying and trying to reinvent, and like, you know, it was just like that was my torture. So but he was a kind guy, but he was also harsh. He was both things. He was like, he would be mean, but in a way to like almost like, you know, you don't leave your like. I heard Besser say one time, it's not like you leave the football field after your coach. Like our coach yelled at us, like he's a jerk. It's like no, he's coaching you. It's part of the thing. And the same thing with, not all theater teachers need to be so lovey-dovey. I don't think so. You know, sometimes it helps to have someone to just be real.
That's true. I think you need that. Yeah, you need that kind of that mixture of like that complimenting, but also being critical as well.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it works for, you know, different teachers for different people. You know, some people need just all the attention. You know what I mean?
So you're taking classes there. Also performing while you're there too.
In Improvisation?
Yes.
Yeah. I did a show with like Jack McBrayer was on my team.
Oh,
he went on to do like 30 Rock and
Yes.
other things, and that was way back. And then then when I eventually moved to New York and started at the beginning of the Upright Citizens Brigade with like one of my first classes. I just remember there's so many people that went on to do great things there too. I was very, very lucky to be part of. Just kind of stumbled into a lot of really talented people training at the same time as me. So that was very fortunate for me. So
being right there at the beginning and seeing where it is now. I mean, they're now both on two coasts. Here in LA, they've got two theaters that are fantastic. They're, you know, I mean, especially the Sunset complex is just fantastic.
Yeah.
So seeing where it is now.
It's an incredible place.
Yeah, to when you started. What do you think is like the biggest difference between when you guys started to where it is now?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Like now, I guess now, I mean, there was nothing going on when we started. It was just like, you know, a tiny little theater and hardly anybody in the audience. And I think the work is strong now, very strong. And it was strong then too. But, you know, I guess the biggest difference, it was easy. You could fail without anybody filming you on a cell phone back then, or like people, you know, you could just like, you could have a bad show here or there or whatever, you know, but it was, put it this way. I probably would never make it on stage now. It's just so competitive now. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm on stage because of seniority, basically. Now I can go on stage, but I was just there first.
Now, I remember listening to an interview with Jason Mantzoukas, and he was saying the great thing about having just like so many empty seats in those theaters back in the early days is that you could just be terrible, and you got all those terrible shows out of your.
I did a lot of bad shows with Jason Mantzoukas. Yeah, that was like a crazy time because I was doing like I was on this group called Mother in New York with you know, Jason Mantzoukas and Jessica St. Clair and, you know, John Daly and people like that, or, you know, Jesse Falcon. And it was like so many great people on that team. But at the time, we're just like trying to figure it out. We're just like training really hard. We practiced so much. You know, we practiced getting to know each other and like rehearsing. You know, even though it seems weird to rehearse improvisation, we would just keep doing 30-minute sets or just keep doing those over and over again and just find each other. And we made a goal together to just like get better as a team, as a group. And that really paid off. You know, we had like 8 or 9 year run that was, I thought was, you know, whatever. We were well received or whatever. It was really funny. And those guys just great improvisers.
Well, that's what I think. What people search for, and this kind of ties us back into your filming, your film work and stuff, is that you're searching for somebody that you can really connect with, you can collaborate with, and you feel like that kind of kinship with. And so that for you, when you're still in Chicago, you meet Todd Phillips. You bring him in to direct a spot for a campaign that you're working on.
Yeah, that's a whole different set of work. That's a whole different world. But I was still in advertising. This is before New York. It was during. And it was after Chicago. I had this little blip in for 2 years I was in Portland, Oregon, whatever, when I was around in my 20s working in an advertising agency there. But when I met Todd, we just hit it off. We just simply got along really good and made each other laugh. And it wasn't, it just was immediate. And I don't know, we're still friends after all these years. But at the time, it was a crazy break for me because somehow Ivan Reitman, one of the great producers of all time, had reached out to him and asked him if he had any ideas for like a Animal House on the Road type of thing. And this is because of Todd's success as a director and his work that did well at Sundance. And I just remember sending him tons of ideas for it. He mentioned it to me as tons of ideas, tried to brainstorm with him, emailing him, and until he wanted to work together on it. I called in sick at work, and we flew down to, I flew down from Portland. He was in New York. We went down to Universal Studios. Mm. So I'm like calling in sick and going down there and meeting Ivan Reitman and pitching him. And the funny thing is I sold a treatment that day with him, and now I know, because I'm experienced, that a treatment is absolutely nothing. They don't even have treatments anymore. It's not even a thing. Like a treatment is like no money, no guarantee. It's just like the idea for something you might do. And I was like, I quit my job, I'm moving to New York, I made it.
So out of every place, when you decided, you get that treatment sold and you decided to move to New York, why not Los Angeles?
Because Todd, honestly, it was just to work with Todd.
Okay.
And I wanted to move to New York, honestly. If things didn't go well, I could still be living in New York. You know what I mean? So that was part of it too.
And so was the treatment that you sold, Ivan Reitman, did that end up becoming Road Trip?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it became Road Trip. So, and that was, looking back, we really didn't know what we were doing. Now I'm looking like, what were we doing? But we just tried to invent it together and basically create without anybody sort of steering us, just inventing like the funniest possible thing we could do. But then it was honestly like kind of going to film school too, though, because Ivan did help us so much. He pushed back on the structure and like act breaks and like the arcs of the characters and things that really going to really make it more. We didn't set out to make a marketable movie or whatever, but like at the same time, he would make sure people came to see the movie, and then we gave it a little more edge.
I guess that's the thing, because as you're trying to kind of put your spin on something, like how much of it is, I want to do something that nobody else has done, but then how much of that is, well, if we give you that rope, that could be fantastic. You can do something that's great, but also, well, maybe you need something that has some guidance in terms of marketability, in terms of it.
I think the three of us. It's not like we didn't want to make. We wanted to open big and stuff, but I think the three of us made a good team. Honestly, like Todd has a different point of view even than I do, and then Ivan has a different point of view. The three of us all kind of worked together and debated things, and turned out all right.
Well, yeah, especially when you have somebody to collaborate with, like Ivan Reitman, to kind of oversee everything. What was it like? Were you just picking his brain about? He's got so many credits to his name, so much experience.
I don't even. The funny thing was going to. He preferred for us to be near him. So like once in a while we'd be like, he'd put us in a hotel in like Santa Barbara near where his house was, which is, that's not a normal thing to be like in a hotel for like weeks on end and just like writing a screenplay in a hotel with your friend. But that's what we did. And then we would go up and meet him in this, he's got this incredible house, incredible office on like top of a mountain in like Santa Barbara and Montecito in California. And that was super surreal. That was like, we'd fly in from New York and land and like drive along the ocean and go to his big house. It was really intimidating, But I don't know. But we always felt like we knew what we thought was funny. So it wasn't like we were like once we thought something was funny, we weren't like nervous. You know what I mean? So yeah, we learned a lot, but. We're also kind of confident, even though we probably shouldn't have been.
Well, no, you got to be confident, especially if you have a great idea.
And by the way, I was so lucky to work with Todd. Todd was a great. He was the producer and directed it. Even I was part of the team, but it was really Todd's thing that he pulled it off. So that was great.
Well, I do like there's moments in the movie like where he puts himself on the bus. And he's really into feet.
Yeah,
so like that, just like moments like that with the great mustache, like, oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, as you guys are breaking that all down, you break the scenes, and Todd's like, you know what? I think I could do this. This is my moment.
I mean, yeah. It was just like some of those things you just throw away. You're just not sure if it's going to make it in the movie or not. Like, let's just try it, So that turned out funny. So, yeah.
So you do Road Trip, and then you collaborate together on Old School after that.
Yeah.
So in that terms, you find like, oh, we work great together. We should do another film. Is there that kind of like that sophomore jitters? Like, oh man, we got to do something good. What can we do?
Well, I mean, I guess in retrospect, it seems like, okay, what's your next movie? But it was really like, you don't know what you're going to do now. It was kind of a scramble. You don't really know if you have a career or not or what's going on. It's not like we were just like presented with tons of options. I didn't know if Todd was going to go direct a different script or if we were going to get, it was just, you're trying to find it, together. And, but once we had that idea, it was based on a script that Todd had found. I purposely didn't read it. And we just sort of took it as a pitch and rebooted the whole thing and invented it. We wrote we were thinking about doing a couple other things, but, basically that just got tons of momentum. As soon as we started, like, trying to make that great, it turned out really good, I think.
Well, I was reading an interview with you. It's like you can see that film or posters of that in a lot of college dorm rooms and stuff, but it's like, it's not really a college movie. It's more about three guys that shouldn't be holding on to the past.
Yeah, it's like, we thought the tagline should have been like, some people should never go back. You know what I mean? Some guys should never go back. And that's really what it is about. It's about, I think that's why it's kind of, I think it's kind of held up because you can relate to three guys that everyone has a friend or a group of friends that's like, man, it's like, you're still doing that? Like, how old are you now? Like, you need to like, sort of like, it's okay to like blow off a little steam once in a while, but like, you need to like move on with your life maybe, or maybe not. Some guys shouldn't. And some guys literally are stunted. They like peaked as like a football player or whatever in high school, and they're just still that guy. You know what I mean? So anyway, this is a comedy version of three guys that like did not want to let go of the past.
Now, certainly Todd did his sort of documentary there that was in Sundance, following fraternity life.
Yeah.
Were you in a fraternity in school?
I am so embarrassed to say. There's no cool way to say you're in a fraternity because it's so like everyone's just like, oh, like, yeah, so. I will admit that I was, but I was at a school where if it was more like, oh, we're all going to pool our money together and have parties and you can only meet girls if you so yeah. It was a very, very strong Greek system where I was in a little tiny little school in the middle of like, I went to Bradley University in Peoria.
I actually considered that. Yeah, so potentially because there's like the beer plant right there, right? So you can smell.
Yeah, it smells like.
Yes.
There's a perfume that was like a joke called Ode to Peoria, and it did smell. That's how it smells. And
there's a great, I want to say, great ship called Big Al's. That used to be down there.
Never heard of it.
No. All right, I have way too many stories about that. I don't know about brag, but it's not Big Al talk. It's we're doing popcorn talk, so skip that.
Are they sponsoring this?
Yes, that's right. Brought to you by Big Al's. Too many things there. So, but then you also you do a couple original films, but then you do Starsky and Hutch too, which is basically taking an old concept and kind of revamping it.
Yeah, that honestly I think came from Ben Stiller. I think I think his company was trying to do it, and people seem to like Old School and other things that Todd had done, and then Todd introduced me to those guys, and then we decided to like write this together. So I don't know. That was a tricky one because it's like this big. It's a bigger movie than we'd ever been given. Mm-hmm. It's like bigger budget. It's got to have action. It's got to be like sort of a mystery. Like, what's the plot? These guys have to discover things. It's like a different kind of structure I was used to writing. It was like a buddy cop, mm-hmm. movie. There's all these different genres that we're kind of playing with. That was different than what I had ever done before, and because there's a show, there's a show that was a drama that people still thought was kind of funny because it was like, now you look back and it's corny and it's weird but it's still a show that exists, so you got to like reinvent those characters while paying homage to those guys, and it's just it was that was one of my favorite things to pull off because I felt like we really, we got Snoop Dogg in there, is Huggy Bear.
How can you go wrong with that?
Yeah, that was great. That was a wild thing to pull off. That was a big one.
Well, you imagine when you're combining so many genres to be respectful to like that core audience that loves Starsky and Hutch, but then also we got to contemporize it and kind of give our own little take.
Well, the weird thing too is like that was it's hard to say it now because you're like, oh yeah, like 21 Jump Street and whatever. You just do what these movies exist all the time. But back when we did it, it was at the beginning.
It was like maybe Brady Bunch, maybe.
Yeah, Brady Bunch, but that was a really weird tone. It's completely insane. That's not what we were gonna do. So we had to figure out sort of what we were doing with it. And obviously Ben and Owen Wilson, everybody were like a big part of figuring it out too. But it was right around Charlie's Angels did its own thing, but that was more sexy and like, action. And, it's like we were just straight up comedy version of it. So it was great.
So given your improv background with all that, I mean, certainly it's all about yes and it's working with an ensemble to kind of take an idea and make it the best possible version of that idea. How much of that has been useful when you're writing and directing? I mean, I can't even over-exaggerate how much it influences everything I do. I've just been doing it for so long and performing weekly for so long, and the reason I do it is because I love it. And when I write, I don't know, I love to write in that way where I have characters in my head and I'm having conversations with them in my head and I'm improvising in my own mind when I'm writing and typing. And I also like brainstorming with other people, like I said before, like where I'm like hiding what they're doing, or I'm saying, okay, that's like there's a spark or something there. Let's build off that. Like running the writer's room on Dice. It was a small writer's room, just like 3 of us or 4 of us. Brian Gateway, Alex Tanaka, Jackie Clark, great writers, yeah. And we're all like in that world where we're building, and it makes me, I don't know, it makes me happy to be like creating things together with people. Oh, that's awesome. Now, speaking of creating something, one of your next films is semi-pro. So you've been with Todd before, but then all of a sudden you're just like, I'm going to write this one solo. What was about the semi-pro and doing the ABA basketball? So like, I'm going to kind of tackle this and do this on my own.
Yeah, well, it had nothing to do with anything other than like Todd did something else. I think Todd took another gig. You know what I mean? He got a huge opportunity to do something else. I can't remember what it was. And I just had this other thing kicking around. You know how it is. It's like, you just like Todd's shooting, I'm writing something else on my own or whatever. And then, but when New Line liked what I had written, we got in. Will Ferrell, loved the work. We got that going. So,
I mean, you get Will Ferrell. I mean, certainly a sports nut in his own right too. I mean, he loves.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Is I'm obsessed with the ABA.
Yes. Because it's like this alternate version, like the NBA. I mean, it was running concurrently with them for a while in the '70s, and then it's just like this bizarro version of that, which I always, the film is so great for just those moments.
Thank you, yeah. People, that's one of the ones that holds up more than you would expect. I get a lot of people quoting that movie or liking it. It's one of those ones that holds up on cable or whatever, like people watch that over and over again. Semi-Pro is funny. There's these documentaries and books and material and interviews you do, or like I've like studied all this stuff, and it's crazy the world that existed back then. It was so freewheeling and nuts, and people would just like, party their asses off and travel and just like it was just like minor league mayhem, and also big league stuff. And then all those guys got super rich from that, and it was just a funny world to do a movie of. So, but I also am a big fan of movies like Slapshot, which is I can't say Semi-Pro is as good as that. It was the greatest movie ever. And North Dallas 40, it's kind of an homage to those kind of movies, which I think surprised some people when it came out because they weren't ready for that. That's why Will Ferrell did the movie, I think, because he loves that world too.
No, and Andy Daly.
Oh my God, yeah,
he is just fantastic.
I think that I can't remember the exact scenario, but I'm pretty sure. He's a friend of mine from Upright Citizens Brigade, and I've been a fan of his forever, and I think he sat in at the table read to help us out originally, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, you should just do the part." He's just killing it, and then he's a savant, and I mean he's one of those people that is like, talk to anybody who's funny or anybody you consider like to have high skill, they always revere someone like Andy Daly. It's such a high level of improvisation that it's like bananas.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch Review, I mean, God,
yeah,
man, that show is just incredible.
But his special talent is truly crazy. His improvising is nuts. You know what I mean? It's at a whole different level. You can't even hang. It's like scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like he's just, just hard to hang on stage with him. He's so good.
Are those the moments that you enjoy the most because there are times where I'll play with an improv team where I feel like I'm the weak link in this chain, and I'm terrified, but I also like that because I feel like it's challenging me, it's making me really push myself. Do you like to be in that, or you're just like, I don't want to be that uncomfortable on stage?
I'll always I love just being the straight man point guard kind of guy. Like if I see LeBron, I'll just give him an alley-oop or whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't make me nervous. It just makes me like. But yeah, someone like, I remember I was on stage with Amy Poehler years ago, and I was kind of terrified. I was like, shit, like I'm not even listening to what she's saying. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? I was doing like this ass cat scene. But yeah, but then in 2 seconds you're just on stage playing, and people are just human beings. But yeah, I mean, I get nervous every time I go on stage. Honestly, you don't want to like. That's the whole thing. You're tightrope walking. You know, if you don't pay attention, you'll fall on your head.
Now, talk about one more scene that I enjoy in Semi-Pro is the scene where Woody Harrelson, Maura Tierney, they're hanging out, and then Rob Corddry comes in, and you think it's going to be like, oh man, it's going to be an ugly scene, but then when he just stops and sits down and just wants to watch, that scene made me laugh so much.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm happy. Yeah, I love it. He's just a huge Monix fan. He's wearing the jersey. He just wants his autograph, and then like when he finds out Monix actually wants to have sex with his wife, it's like he's so psyched. That was a good. That's one of those things that make me laugh. I don't know where that comes from, but.
So you also get in television. You're also producing some shows, like Playing House over on USA.
Yeah,
some great,
awesome show. Watch Playing House, everybody.
So with some great UCBers there. From there.
Yeah, I met Jessica St. Clair years ago. Like she was on my first Herald team in improv or up at Citizen Brigade, and Lennon Parham too. She's from New York also. I started a production company years ago, and the whole plan was to like give people that I thought were crazy talented that were getting a chance, helping them, and just advocating for them and taking them out and because I had some luck, so I was just trying to like shepherd new people, new talent, and that grew a little bit, and then got whatever, and then got a little bit too, it took too many. I got too many conference calls, as I've said before.
Yes.
It was just like I was becoming just a producer, and I really wanted to just create my own stuff. I'm just happier when I'm doing a show or a movie or whatever. And then it wasn't fair to the people I was producing for because I didn't want to try so hard all the time. It was just it became exhausting, and I felt like I was overstretched or whatever.
I can understand because it seems like bad when you're just starting out, like, oh yeah, it'd be great to have my own production company. I can make all this stuff happen. But then when you face the realities of it, like, it's not all the things that I think in my head. It's also just the day to day, and I got to answer these calls, and I got to be on this all the time. Like,
and also it's like it's hard to delegate comedy. You know what I mean? And I think that's something you'll find at even that's why Judd Apatow is so busy. You know what I mean? Because he knows like you can't delegate everything to other people that work for you. You can't just expand comedy. You kind of it's always just like you reading the script, or you talking to somebody, or you reviewing it, or you in the editing room helping somebody out, or it's just tricky. That's why network TV struggles sometimes. I think is because they have one boss who then is the executive producer, works with the showrunner, who works with the writer's room of a bunch of people, and the studio and the network, and suddenly you're like, then you hire a different director, and then one of the writers is on set with the other director, and and then you're like, suddenly everyone's just. It's easier when it's one guy who kind of knows exactly what's going on all the time, who's just around,
And I think,
I think that's why I just started doing my own stuff again more.
Yeah.
Because I was not there all the time, and then it's just quality control to keep it a little smaller.
I can understand that because it's tough to, because certainly with, I used to like a bad game of telephone. An idea you have after it goes through so many people, all of a sudden, like, this is not exactly what we thought it was going to be.
Well, there's a speed to it, too. You don't even have time. Like, you're on set, you're shooting, you get 5 takes, you move on, and, whatever. When you're editing, there's a ticking clock and a budget, and you only have, like, the editor has how many days to edit the episode, and, it's just everything's, when you're writing, you gotta get the scripts out, and, it's just a speed thing, too. Like, network struggles with that stuff, I think. And the that can do it, get paid a lot of money. They're busy when they work, but that's why it's a tricky thing to. It's a little bureaucratic, So that's why I'm really happy with, doing something like Dice. I was able to run a very small room, and then direct almost all the episodes, except for a couple, and be on set, and that they were like, "Don't you want to be the showrunner and hire the directors?" And then someone else could be the. And I'm like, no, I'll just let's just keep it smaller, and I just felt like it would be funnier if it came from one point of view. And by the way, it's Dice's point of view that I'm writing for, or we're writing for. So someone really had to be there to make sure we were inventing this character the right way all the time. It's a fine line between a bad version of it and the right version of it. In my mind,
because when you look at somebody like Louis C.K., who when he's doing his show, he pretty much does just about everything, which could be incredibly time intensive. But the benefit of that is that it's just really your singular vision.
And based on the interviews I've seen with him, and I don't know him, but he doesn't have any bureaucracy. The reason he started his whole company and arranged his deal at FX and all that stuff is so he could just be completely in charge, which is different than anybody else's deal. Because he was just like, I don't want to do a show unless you let me do it this way. And he was so hyper talented that he was able to, and he works his butt off too. He started his own company, which is not easy. He does everything himself. He edits himself. It's stars in it. That's stuff that. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just, and also it's different. He's running for his own life, and I'm running for Dice's life.
Yeah, so that's why you're doing this for Showtime.
Yeah.
So you pitched Dice. So at what point did you kind of get with Andrew Dice Clay and say hey, look, we should do some a take on your life?
It wasn't really like a setup thing. It was like I just met him. We had a general meeting, whatever you call it, and not to talk to inside. Yeah, it's a general meeting. But he was just telling me these stories of what he's been up to. This idea. Here's a guy who's down to his last $10,000, even though he's had an incredible career. He's one of the biggest stars ever in the '80s. Decides to move to Vegas to become a professional gambler. Load his family up in the car with his last $10,000 and go become a professional gambler, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But then makes $1 million right away. Buys 4 cars. Loses the $1 million and then just has 4 cars. I love this guy. It's just there's no one else like him. He's completely unique. His voice is there's so much going on with this guy. It's basically like a rock star comedian who is just still a legend. He's a legend, but he's also a legend more in his own mind than in his mind. Nothing's changed. The world in some ways has passed him by, which makes it funny. But he is still really funny. He's a great comic actor. He's hilarious. But the cool thing about Dice is he understood that at this point, it's really funny to do a show where he's the joke's kind of on him at the same time as he's also able to be funny in the scenes. So that was the trick. It's if we were going to try and do a show that makes him look cool all the time, it wasn't going to work.
So when you have that general meeting and he's telling you all these stories,
I was just oh my God, this is fun. I felt this is a chance to. Usually I'm inventing a character that's as wild as Dice. He's crazy, So I'm usually inventing what if there's a guy who is like this and thinks, but when you write for Zach Galifianakis or Will Ferrell or Ben Stiller or somebody, they go home at night and become normal people again.
Yeah.
But Dice goes home, he's still Dice, So I just love it. He's a character that I would have invented or Will Ferrell would have invented or played. But he's really like that in real life. And he gets that too. He gets it. It's funny. It's really unusual. It's a weird setup. And that's why I think this show is kind of special, is because it is this guy who used to be a legend. He still is. He's huge, but it's a different world now. He's living in a moderately priced house in the suburbs of Vegas and just trying to live his life. But it still has this fame. He's kind of, and he's also, this is Andrew Silverstein is who it is. It's a man who has all these different layers to him. But he's trapped in the skin of the Dice man, And then sometimes, but then he'll say there's no difference between the guys. But then sometimes, but it's a put on stage. So then some people will be like, he can anger people, it'd be controversial, but then that's not who he is as a real person, I know that he doesn't want his manager or anybody swearing in his house. You know, like they has like rule. It's like different.
Interesting.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah, there's so many things he'll like. Just hanging out with him, there's like, oh, that's an episode. Like when he went out for steak, he brought his own A1 sauce. I'm like, that's going in a script. You know, and his wife like hands him his A1 sauce. I'm like, that's funny. You know, it's just like this is nonstop. Stuff like that. It's just great.
So when you say, "Are we going to do this?" When you do a series, does he almost give you like a rule book? This is what Dice does on stage. This is what Dice does off stage. Boom, 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 boom. When you're going.
I mean, kind of. Basically, what we did was we did a million. We went through everything he's ever said. We went through his book. We went through, listened to every interview, everything he did, and we went to his house and talked for hours and just like. Basically sat in the room and looked at everything. It's been like, what's the funniest stuff we can do? I don't know what we can say on this stuff. But he and we started weaving stories together based on a lot of his experiences and a lot of things we just invented that might happen to him too.
Did you have the other three writers in the writer's room there at those meetings too? Or
Yeah. A lot of it was just me. Like he would text me,
okay,
like ideas and stuff. It just got really weird. But he's got a lot of good ideas. He got a lot of bad ideas too. But that was the whole thing. I just allowed him like send me everything. Just keep the faucet on. All the nonsense. I'll go through it all, and then we'll just like find. And there was some great stuff that came out of like us having a relationship like that.
And
I think,
and you've got Jackie Clark in the writers' room, who I've
heavy
been
hitter.
Oh, she's delightful. Oh my goodness.
And Gateway to Tanaka, awesome.
So you just finished up the 6-episode run for this.
Yeah.
On Dice. So it's available on Showtime.com. You can go and check it out as well.
It's a free 30-day trial on Showtime. You can watch the whole thing for free. You can just stream all 6.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right. So how can you beat that? And hopefully a second season coming up.
Yeah, I'm hoping. We're going to find out, I think, next week.
Oh, all right. Mm-hmm. Very nice. So let's talk about your latest film, your latest project, Search Party.
Yeah.
So, you've written on your own. You did semi-pro. You've collaborated with Todd on a bunch of different projects. But what was it about Search Party that you said, like, all right, I want to take my hand and make my directorial debut with this script?
Just it's as simple as, like, just wanted to try it. Just do it myself. Do something that... I was ready to direct. For a while, I was like okay with like writing stuff and letting other people like figure it out and like do all the, it's a year of your life and it's really intense. You got to do all the prep. You got to do all the the weeks and weeks and weeks of prep, and shooting is really taxing. It's the whole thing. You got to really, really want to direct. I think to do a good job, and I got to the point where I really wanted to, and so I was ready. And the fun part is just making exactly like you want to make it, and once I also was I considered directing before that, but I kept turning things down. Like it wasn't. It's more about the year commitment of something. You want to really like make sure it's the right kind of tone or the thing you really want to do. So I had a little bit of a commitment phobe thing going for a minute, but then I was like, this is what I want to do.
Because I also reading in an article where you're saying when you're starting a project, you start thinking about who you could see in that film necessarily before you start putting everything together.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's lots of tricks to writing, but one thing I do is I will visualize who I want in the thing. Or sometimes if I don't know, I'll just be like, oh, this is going to be like, this is a young Bill Murray. And you just suddenly just pretend young Bill Murray's in your movie, and suddenly you start writing things you wouldn't write otherwise. Oh, this is going to be like Ben Stiller. Mm-hmm. Or just like, oh, this is Vince Vaughn, and he's like improvising and saying all this crazy stuff, and you start writing in a way you wouldn't have written if you were just like inventing your own thing. But then sometimes, you base it like, an amalgamation of 3 guys you knew in high school or some guy you work with now. You just start, how writing goes. But sometimes I feel like it's a good tool to like just, what if this was TJ Miller or whatever, And I was a huge fan of TJ Miller and Thomas Middleditch and Adam Pally. And when I first, the script was originally written by Andrew Waller and Mike Gagerman, and bought the script with my production company that I had, and was able to like take the script and reboot it in my own sort of with my own vision, and then bring those guys back in and work together on it. They were awesome, and but I always wanted Middleditch in the desert naked, and I always wanted TJ going down to save him with Pally, so. That was awesome to get. I mean, the cast.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
You said Murderers Row.
Yes,
I agree.
Yeah, just if you look at this, Jeremy, you've got Adam Pally, of course, Thomas Middleditch, T.J. Miller, but then you've got J.B. Smoove, John Glazer, Timmy Mays, who, just a little shout out to that guy. Really
Timmy
enjoyed him.
Mays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
He'll be famous.
Yes.
He'll be famous soon.
Just him in the spa scene where
Yeah.
they're like, oh, Timmy, my goodness, you're so skinny.
Yeah, I saw JB Smoove the other night, and he was so fired up about the movie. He loved it. He thinks it's like his favorite character he's ever played. He said so. I was so happy to hear that. As someone that, when you're a director, you want to make sure you get everybody in their wheelhouse so they're happy, or however you want to say it. I was just so psyched he was into it.
Oh yeah, and you've got Billy Merritt, Jason Mantzoukas, Brian Husky, Liz Kukowski. Yes, Allison Brie. Look at all that. Oh, so my goodness, man.
Rosa Salazar.
Yes.
Kristen Ritter.
Kristen Ritter. Yeah, Kristen Ritter. That scene. I like that scene.
Shannon Woodward.
Yeah, just because it sets up exactly what you every bad thing you have. You would imagine if you go to a hotel and meet a stranger, and then it all just comes.
Yeah, that was Gagan and Waller's idea, and that turned out awesome. Yeah, just the idea you go and sit down at a bar and someone says you want to, I love that scene where someone's like, "Aren't you afraid I'm gonna like?" Well, I can't remember. I'm not gonna redo the scene, but it's just like the idea of like someone pretending like, "Wait, aren't you afraid I'm gonna steal your kidney?" and then actually doing it. That was pretty good.
So
that was like one of the first things I saw in the script and why I bought it. That set piece.
Well, plus you've got that, and you've got Jason Mantzoukas, which you play with over at UC.
Yeah, he's one of my great friends. I've been performing with him on stage for 15 years. Are we that old? A long time, weekly in New York and also in Los Angeles. We do soundtrack over at Upright Citizens Brigade at
every Friday night.
Every Friday at 9:30. Come to the show.
Yeah, with Winslow.
Come to the show. 9:30 Friday.
This guy Davis put on the jams that you guys do your improvising.
Yeah. Yeah, we whatever. We talking about that? Yeah, we collect people's music on their phones and iPods or whatever, and we have a DJ, and then we improvise to your music. It's at UCB Franklin in Los Angeles.
So now, Search Party, it's all about Thomas Middleditch is getting married, and it all goes sour. His boys, Jason and Evan, played by
it was kind of like the fun thing is that to have, you've seen in movies like the guy will enter the stop the wedding or whatever, like The Graduate or whatever, but then this is like a best friend stopping another guy's wedding, which I thought was unique and funny. That was the fun thing, is TJ stopping his best friend's wedding. That's how the whole movie starts, and then we realized that was probably a mistake and he had bad information, so now they're all trying to sort of fix that. She's gone on her honeymoon by herself and taking the plane tickets with her and down in Mexico, and then Thomas Middleditch's character goes down to the honeymoon to try and get her back, gets carjacked, gets tuxedo jacked, gets and calling his two best friends to come fix this whole thing that they caused. Come get me down to Mexico, and but then it's not just like, oh, we're gonna go save our friend. It's like now we're also following, and now it's like almost this is where it's inspired, I think, by a lot of Improv Olympic, Upright Citizens Brigade stuff. Is like it's more set up where I just have the Herald format buried into my head, and the Herald is like, for people that don't know, it's like a improvisational long form structure. But anyway, we got three different guys following all three stories at the same time, and there's a lot of what I mean. So it gets it's a little more of like freewheeling structure. It's
great where you get to see you going off the tangents, blowing out the game, certain aspect. There's delightful random tangents that can come up in a Herald where you're like, all right, let's follow this for a little while because it is so crazy. All right, let's do this.
But it's also it's being inspired by those structural things, but at the same time it's a movie. It's a different thing. Mm-hmm. It's a very different thing. Where the characters do have to be like in the real world a little bit and grounded in like, if someone has a gun, it is terrifying. Whereas on stage you can mess around, and it's a different genre. Every genre is different. As soon as you take something from that's one thing I think that happens to people is they study on stage and then they just like use that exact same stuff on TV or film or somewhere else, and it's like, oh wait, no, you really have to adjust. Like even the way you. Now I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but like if you guys care, like if you're performing on stage, it's like obviously the subtlety of like being on film versus like TV and versus being on Broadway or being like in a small black box theater. It's so many different kinds of acting.
You need to adjust your performance to the medium that you're playing.
It's totally different than if you're doing stand up versus that seems obvious, but it's amazing how much people don't adjust enough.
One scene, a couple of scenes, many scenes on this show, but the one with Adam Pally talking to Allison Dupree, talking about the red skirt. and just trying to break that down and just and how do you give a compliment to somebody in the workplace these days without seeming like you're a creepy sex guy?
Yeah, and then that's basically the worst possible scenario where Pally just kind of blacks out and starts saying these horrible things on accident when he's trying to like dig out of a hole.
Which I enjoyed that so much about his character, where he would seem like he'd be fine, and then he'd try to get himself out of.
He's so good at that stuff. I think we were a good team. Where like I like writing for him, and I think he likes doing the stuff that I give him to do. It's pretty, and he improvised tons of that stuff too, by the way. And you got to give it up for Alison Brie, the greatest reaction shots, greatest straight person in that scene, and also just funny on her own, really good.
Now, there is a scene where T.J. Miller's at home, and he's, which I always like these scenes in movies, where somebody's at home just doing their normal day-to-day thing, but they're always watching something on TV. And this one, T.J. Miller's watching Face Off. I've always wanted to ask somebody, like, what was the choice? Like, why Face Off?
Okay, here's the thing. We can never buy the footage. You can't use the footage without permission. And we didn't pre-negotiate anything at the time. We didn't get the deals done for like what movie he was going to watch. So we had him improvise to like seven different like cheap movies that we thought would be cheap, and then like went out and like then we edited together the best version of it or whatever. So he's like he was like pretending to watch like 7 different movies, which is totally the worst way to do it. That's my fault as a producer and director. To like that we got cornered in that situation, but and then we're like. And everyone was too expensive, so we're like, you have to. One of you 7 has to give us the footage, like otherwise we can't put it in the movie. Like the movie makes no sense without you. So somehow we got the Face Off. I mean, just such a dumb scene. It's great.
Yes. I mean, who doesn't want to do that hand gesture at some point in their life where they're just
and TJ's always just funny with it. It's not even a joke, but he's like, Nicholas. You know what I mean? Like this. I don't know. He's so good.
Now, if you've seen any of the trailers...
I'm not going to quote T.J. Miller lines anymore. I'll stop.
Thomas Middleditch spends a lot of this film in various states of undress.
Yeah. Well, we didn't do it any more than we had to, but that was like sort of the plot. And when we go there, it's for a big laugh usually. It's either, I've been with audiences and it's always like, this play's pretty funny. But we don't do it gratuitously.
No, but it's always
I lie. We do a little gratuitously.
There is a great scene where he jumps into a vehicle where it's like, beautiful shot. Beautiful shot.
Thank you, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this the release of this movie is slightly delayed, so I was like, I think that if Thomas is a bigger star now than when we signed him on in the movie, so I think that I don't know if we would have got him so naked if he was in the second season of Silicon Valley right now. He's so funny on that show, so I feel so lucky to have him in the cast.
How many takes was that shot for him just kind of jumping into the vehicle? Just 2?
Yeah, everything was quick on this movie. We didn't have a lot of time. We shot the whole thing in 34 days, which is so fast for like a lot of action. We were blowing up cars, we're smashing things, guys doing their own stunts. We had stuntmen too, obviously, stunt people, stunt persons. But a lot of it was just quick because we were just trying to make a big, high octane, fast paced movie in 34 days.
Now, you've exploded cars in some of your films, but this is the first time you're directing a car explosion.
Yeah.
So what is it? Is it as cool as it seems, or it's like there's so much technical stuff into it? It's almost like a makeout scene where you suck out all the fun because it's so technical.
It's pretty fun, but it just takes long. You know what I mean? You have to have a safety meeting, then you got to like talk about. You have to have 10 meetings beforehand. You got to it's a whole. It just takes a long time, just for safety, and for legal reasons, and you want the guys to like do it right. And then one of our explosions got so big that it's like blew out our film. We had to like change the thing in post production where because it was so bright, it was so big that like the whole screen just went like orange. You couldn't even see the actors. So it's when TJ's carrying Pally away from the car, and it blows. That was so big, and the cameras were like too close. It was just like,
oh, nice. So, what do you want audiences to walk away from when they see Search Party in theater? What was the whole reason you wanted to do this film? What do you want audiences to take away with them?
Oh, interesting question. I mean, hopefully, just it's like you have a great time and it's funny, But at the same time, I don't know, like 3 new voices. Hopefully, like It's hard to say brand new because, Silicon Valley's happening and Pally's having so much success and so is everybody else. But, at the time when we were creating the movie, it was kind of like 3 new voices in comedy. And
that's the challenge with film as opposed to television. You can get on TV episodes so much quicker than film.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're on live right now.
Yeah.
We're changing the whole world.
That's right.
And I think it's a different tone of a movie where it's a little more like amped up. It's a little more heightened, you know what I mean, than your average buddy comedy. And I think that the 3 guys are like an interesting part of their lives in the movie where they're kind of graduated from college, but they're still like haven't started their next phase. I always like that little phase where you're like you've graduated from college, but you're kind of working a good job, but your other friend really isn't. Your roommate still smokes pot all day and watches TV, but you still have like a real job. But then and someone's kind of getting married. And it's the first guy in your group to get married. It's kind of about that little period in your life, and I think it's the first movie I've seen about that period like this.
Well, and we're like as they say with it was Mike Myers, so his famous quoting that the end is found in the beginning when it comes to a herald. So much like this, where it's as we're talking about improv, it starts off very kind of grounded with a little unusual inciting incident, but then it still is grounded, and then it just builds up to just crazy.
The interesting thing is we showed it to a couple audiences, and it seemed the movie played so intense the whole time. It was like so nonstop that I actually slowed down the beginning a little bit, so it's edited even more grounded. It's a slightly little just a little more slower pace, and then it slowly starts to increase in pace and speed and madness. So it kind of sucks you into this I don't know. It's a by the time you're I don't know watching it with audiences, it seems to the laughter increases as the movie keeps going. I don't know how to say it without sounding like I'm showing off or bragging or whatever. So
brag about it. Do it, Scott. Do it.
It's it gets funnier and funnier.
So now, if the Search Party is in theaters right now, and if you want to find out more about the film, where can they find more information about the film?
You know what? It's on, the cool thing about it's on demand right now.
Oh, look at that!
So it's on demand. Go on demand and watch it. It's if you come down to your little menu, it should pop up new and noteworthy. Is that how you say it? New and noteworthy comedies. T.J. Miller, Search Party.
T.J. Miller, Thomas Middleditch, Adam Pally, murderer's row of other comedians involved in this. Well worth the time to watch this film. Scott, if they want to just praise you on Twitter, where can they find you?
I'm at Scot Armstrong 22.
Send all your compliments to Scot Armstrong right over there. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. That's going to do it for this episode of iTalk Movies here on Popcorn Talk. Please check out Search Party in theaters or on demand right now. We'll see you next time.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.